Welcome back, Astro listeners, to Star Lady Soul Reader Network. This is Media Monk, and as usual, I'm pleased to be joined by our shining star of the zodiac, Star Lady. Hi, Star Lady.
Hello, Media Monk.
And of course, we know Star Lady is Kim Marie, the managing director for the Evolutionary Astrology Network. But this weekend, she's also going to be the leadoff hitter for the Jeffrey Wolf Green Association of Evolutionary Astrologers online conference. That takes place Thursday through Sunday, online only. I just sent out an email to all of our people on our list containing some coupon codes, but essentially you can still get 10% off with your enrollment for the entire conference by using the coupon code MARS, M-A-R-S, capital M-A-R-S. So, we're excited. And Kim is also going to lead off with the presentation on Mars, the cycle of life, as she's entitled it. So consider doing that this weekend. And no worries if you can't participate live, because you can always go to their website, the JWGAEA.org website, and get access to all the various speakers, lectures, and conference materials after the live event. So with that, honey, I'm just going to turn it over to you on this New Moon podcast day.
All right. Thank you, Media Monk. We are recording this just after the new moon of late Libra, which took place October 21st, early in the morning at about 28.5 degrees Libra. And so right off the bat, let me just tell you that recording this the 21st, if you've been following any social media, you probably know that there's some pretty decent meteor showers to watch right now. And because it is a new moon, last night, Monday night, even into Wednesday and Thursday, if you can find yourself in a dark spot, just before dawn is the best viewing. You can see I'm not going to pronounce it right, I'm just going to say Orion meteor showers, because they take place in the constellation of Orion. And Orion is the hunter that appears in the sky in the winter up here in the northern plains. So it's moving through the skies right now, this time of year, better viewing anyway. And it's known by the three horizontal stars that make up Orion's belt. And he's holding a shield in one arm, and he's got a hand raised in the other arm, if you can visualize it with the stars. And the upraised arm, that's stars that are pointing upward from his belt, that's the best place to view the meteoroid showers. And these meteors that streak across the sky, they're actually from the Halley's Comet that appears once about every 75 years. I did get to see that one, by the way, years ago, late 90s. Anyway, we're passing through the debris of Halley's Comet, and that's what creates those meteors in the Earth's atmosphere. So a little bit of astronomy for you if you are interested in that. We missed the full moon podcast, and we have missed a few podcasts this summer, and I have permission from Media Monk to just let you know that he's had a little bit of a surprising summer this year. Transiting Uranus in late Taurus is squaring his Pluto 3 times. And transiting Pluto in Aquarius is opposing his Uranus in Leo 3 times. Uranus hitting his Pluto, Pluto hitting his Uranus. Uranus co-rules electricity with Mercury. Well, it took us 3 trips to the ambulance, via ambulance, and 2 hospital stays It was the second one before we figured out that Leroy we knew it was heart issues. He manifested AFib this summer. And so the third time happened. He literally had surgery right on that full moon of Aries, Libra in early October, earlier this month. But he had an ablation for his atrial fibrillation, the heart, upper area of the heart flutters instead of pumps. And they got new surgeries now where they go in with radio frequencies and they pulsate that area of the heart that is not firing correctly, Uranus electricity. And so since he had his surgery on October 6th, full moon, he's been doing really, really well. So we've had a big sigh of relief from our busy summer. I think we started this process in June, and it took a while to figure out what was going on because he would convert back to his normal rhythm all on his own. Now, latest incident didn't quite happen. So that's why we've missed a few podcasts. Thank you for understanding. Just know if we don't get those new moon, full moon podcasts in on a timely basis, there's probably something going on and we're living life just like the rest of you are. So, moving forward then on that latest podcast that we missed, Pluto turned stationary direct October 13th. It finished up its first full retrograde cycle in Aquarius from probably the last 48 years, and the last 220 years since Pluto had a full retrograde in Aquarius. So Pluto stationary direct has the effect of all of us on those deep soul levels, making the big ahas about our life and how we are moving forward with our life in new ways. What old desires have we been throwing off and releasing? What new desires from the depths of our soul have been coming along? And of course, those keywords that I made up for Pluto and Aquarius, I didn't make them up, I just put them together, I guess you'd say. Pluto's 20-year transit through Aquarius. Detach, objectify, liberate, and innovate. And so as Pluto's turned stationary direct at 1.5 degrees Aquarius, October 13th, there's an emphasis on that liberation, that breaking free from the past, and then taking that space and being very innovative with it and filling up the energy with something new for your world. How is your soul evolving, progressing, moving forward? That is that deep, deep bass note that I've been talking about. Now, interestingly, as we have been experiencing this new moon of Libra, 28.5 degrees, it's in orb of making a grand cross with planets right now. Chiron's retrograde about 25 degrees Aries, opposing that new moon, really exposing us as to how we want to throw off old wounded energy and initiate Aries, new ways of healing for ourselves. And those two are squared by Jupiter just slowing down. It's going to go stationary retrograde with the Mercury retrograde next month. Jupiter's retrograde November 11th, 25 Cancer. Doesn't make it to an opposition to Pluto yet, but it's in orb of opposing Pluto, especially direct, at 1.5 Aquarius, and both of those are making their squares to the new moon in Chiron. So we've got a grand cross on this new moon in cardinal signs, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, with the exception of Pluto. However, Pluto, stationary direct, is creating a big kind of push forward for all of us in, again, various ways of our life that we're living through it. Right after that new moon of Libra, balance, equality of giving and sharing, and in its extremes, where do we have the battles going on? We'll skip over those on a political basis at the moment. Right after this new moon, the next day, October 22nd, Neptune retrogrades from Aries back into Pisces. And it's going to be in Pisces for 4 months. It will turn stationary direct here, I think, the end of November. Let me see if I can find it. Nope, not end of November. Mid-December, Neptune will turn direct December 10th, 29.5 Pisces. But it's going to spend 5 months in that last degree of Pisces, which is the last degree of the entire zodiac, which, oh, by the way, is ruled by Neptune. So here is like one more visit to all of the disillusionment that Neptune in Pisces can bring about. Here is the deep, deep dissolving of what no longer works for our soul. Where are we having to turn inward and reconnect with source energy as deeply as possible? I will, my will, divine will. That's my Leo mantra, but I use it in Pisces as well. That Pisces mantra, I am in wholeness with my reality. So how are we throwing off, again, old desires, Pluto direct, but don't serve us, old fantasies, old disillusionments, old dreams, old manifestations that don't serve us anymore? And then how do we connect with source energy? And that's the connection you need over the next 4 months of Neptune in Pisces to move you through any of your disillusionment with politics in the U.S., any of your anger at the state of politicians and politics in the U.S., happening all over the world in many different areas. We are not the only ones, but for example, how are you finding that deep interconnection, especially on an emotional level, Pisces, that lets you have your own inner peace regardless of outer manifestation? Also, on the 22nd, tail end, almost the 23rd, but it actually happens on October 22nd, Sun ingresses into Scorpio for its annual visit through the sign of Scorpio. My EA mantra for Sun in Scorpio, I metamorphose myself with evolving self-reliance. I metamorphose myself, Scorpio, major transformation with evolving self-reliance, the Taurus polarity. Typically, that Sun entering Scorpio, it can bring some deep emotional ahas, major emotional changes for us, emotional reckonings. It really ties into Pluto stationary direct right now, and what are the desires within our soul that we want to activate, that we want to energize, that we want to use that Scorpio will to move forward with. Interestingly, we have Mercury in Scorpio. Mercury's first passage in Scorpio is October 6th through the 29th. We've got a Mercury retrograde coming up. By the way, Medium Monk, note to Medium Monk. I'm going to do my Mercury retrograde webinar on Wednesday, November 5th, 5 to 7 p.m. Mountain Time. Mercury's retrograde November 9th at 7 Sagittarius to November 29th at 20 Scorpio. 7 Sag through 20 Scorpio. What's interesting about this next Mercury retrograde, and that's why I'm going to do a webinar on it, Mercury turned stationary retrograde with Jupiter turning stationary retrograde early November. Late November, Mercury turned stationary direct with Saturn turning stationary direct. And this particular Mercury retrograde, Mercury aspects every single planet. We don't discuss it with the moon. It's always an interior conjunction with the sun. However, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Chiron, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, Mercury has aspects to all of them 3 times each. It is going to be one little busy Mercury retrograde. Okay, you already know this now. Oh, by the way, Mercury went pre-shadow on the new moon today, as we are recording this, October 21st. And my point was, the day before, October 20th, Mercury made the first of 3 conjunctions to Mars at 19 Scorpio. And so during this Mercury retrograde, it's going to make a grand trine with Jupiter in Scorpio, and Jupiter turning stationary retrograde. And then it's going to make trines to Saturn retrograde in Pisces and Neptune retrograde in Pisces as well. So we're going to have multiple Mercury retrograde grand trines with water planets. This is going to be a Mercury retrograde cycle to get in touch with our emotional nature, and we're kicking it off right now on this new moon with Mercury moving to pre-shadow and Neptune retrograding back into Pisces and the Sun going into Scorpio. What's happening for you in your emotional world? So, I also want to mention the fact that, oh, by the way, Mars moving through the tail end of Scorpio will make its grand trines to Jupiter, Saturn, and Neptune as well throughout the latter part of October. The point that I wanted to make, though, is that as Jupiter is getting ready to turn stationary retrograde, slowing down again, Jupiter goes retrograde November 11th at 25 degrees Cancer. It is going to make 3 first quarter squares to Chiron retrograde in Aries. The first one is October 23rd at 24.5. Jupiter Cancer, Chiron retrograde Aries. So Jupiter's waxing squares to Chiron. This is where we've got to really be putting in the self-healing efforts. Jupiter-Chiron had a conjunction back in March of 23 at about 14:15 Aries. So we've got a lot of Aries intent between these two. But now that Jupiter's moved all that way into Cancer and it's getting ready to release and turn off old emotional patterns, especially from our early environments that no longer serve us, we really want to make an effort. How does it feel? How do I feel? How does it feel? How do I feel? We really want to make an effort to get in touch with everything on an emotional basis. Not just because the sun went into Scorpio, but everything that I just monologued in the last few minutes. Listen to the podcast again. I don't know if I could say it as succinctly as I just did. And right before we go into the full moon of Taurus, November 5th, we're going to have Mars go into Sagittarius, November 4th to December 15th. And then Mars is going to oppose Uranus at 0 degrees Sag, Gemini, with Uranus retrograde. So, one more time. Mars is going to be finishing up in Scorpio, and the distortions of Mars in Scorpio can be power over, power under, grab all the power I can, get away with as much as I can until a larger force of power stops me. As Mars chooses to move into Sagittarius, November 4th through December 15th, can lighten things up a bit. We can want to jump into holiday season. Sag, one of the fire signs, just like Leo. Oh, let's socialize. Let's have some fun. It can bring out some truths. It can, expose some of the lies. But the fact that Mars barely enters Sagittarius and then opposes Uranus the day before the full moon, and a super full moon, by the way. We're in the midst of the super full moons where the full moons appear to be closer to Earth just because of the moon's orbit with the Earth. It might be a little cautious time period with regards to explosions and danger and war and just somebody or something or the planet Earth flying off the handle and bringing us an earthquake again, or bringing us a volcano, or bringing us an upsetting event. Mars opposing Uranus, no matter the signs, can have a tendency towards violence. The pressure points have built up. The combustion has to be released. So, the better that you are making an effort to honor your emotions, pay attention to those emotional, intuitive hits, the more smoothly you can move through any upsets in the beginning of November. Mercury will go into Sag November 29th, turn retrograde. It'll be there through November 18th. Mercury in Sag along with Mars. They're going to have their second of 3 conjunctions in Sag later. But Mercury moving into Sag late October, Mars early November. Mercury making an opposition to Uranus. Mercury can be that fuse that lights things up, that causes the upsets, that causes the explosions. So again, one more time, really, really make the effort to be congruent, to be in touch with your emotions and what your emotional guidance system is asking of you. Best way to move through as smoothly and easily as possible. An old saying of Jeffrey Green's is, evolution takes place through the emotional body. We can have all the spiritual wisdom in the world. We can have all the mental intellect in the world. But until we experience living through the senses, which includes the emotional body, we don't fully integrate it. Evolution takes place through the emotional body. As this sun in Scorpio is going to have her solar return here, my birthday's October 24th, my solar return is early that day. I heard that mantra from him 40 years ago, and boy, has it been a lifesaver for me. All right. Any last comments, hits, Meaty Monk? Excuse me.
No, but make sure to listen in bright and early Thursday morning to Kim Marie doing her Mars talk on the jwgaea.org online conference. And until next time, continue to move with joy and lots of passion on this never-ending journey to the core of our souls. Thanks for tuning in, everyone.